Hello, I'm Maryanne Theobald, and I'm pleased to present with my colleagues Gillian Busch and Laraghy on the language of friendship, children's views of making friends in culturally and linguistically diverse settings. Having a friend helps children feel like they belong. Friendships are how children learn to communicate, talk to others, and share ideas, all necessary skills for successful life and work outcomes. And having at least one friend is closely associated with children's success at school. Educational settings are increasingly culturally and linguistically diverse, and such diversity brings to the spotlight the role that gestures, objects, and adults might play in children's peer interactions, and the strategies that children themselves use to make friends when they may not share a common language. Studies of friendship have found that making friends means having things in common, such as shared interests, and doing things together. And there's a body of work listed here that have clearly outlined some of these ideas. Whilst there has been attention on friendships, there's been a lack of attention on the concept of friendships in settings of linguistic diversity, with a few exceptions, mainly examining friendships with older children. Some of these studies have found that speaking the same language and having the same ethnicity does have a part to play in making friends. Studies have highlighted that children's competence in their social endeavours, when they use such strategies such as body movements, displays of affect, language resources, code switching, to competently navigate peer groups. Bali's study of older children in an Irish school identified that language and identity are an integral part in playing and making friends. And McLeod found that children use language as a way of excluding others. The views of children who have a first language other than the dominant language of the setting, and young children themselves are not well represented in these studies. And there's been less studies done in the Australian context. Hence our study of young children's views on friendship in a culturally and linguistic diverse setting. The data for the study were drawn from a larger study called Better Friends, Better Lives. And this study used video ethnography as well as research conversations in a child-friendly way to explore how children made friends at preschool. The central research questions were: what role does language play in children's interactions when making and keeping friends? What strategies and social cues and signs do children use to interact when there are language differences? The study was conducted in an inner-city preschool centre in southeast Queensland over a 6-week period in the first year and a 2 to 4 week period in the second year. In total, 72 children aged 3 to 4 years participated in the study across 3 classrooms. Approximately 30% of the children in each class identified as having a first language other than English. The interviews were semi-structured and held in small groups of 3 children, where we set up a table in their everyday play activities. We invited children to come along and draw a picture. The drawing activity was to make children feel at ease and also to give children another medium to provide their views. Conversations ranged from about 5 minutes to 30 minutes and were video recorded. Conversations also ran into the other play activities as researchers stayed in the research context. To empower all children to share their views, the teacher advised the researchers of the children's language backgrounds and language use preferences. Following the teacher's advice, 2 interpreters were employed. One spoke Japanese and English, and one who spoke the languages of India and English. Interpreters and researchers all had experience working with children and held police background checks for working with children in Australia. And the study received ethical approval. When data collection was completed, the recordings of the conversations were transcribed and pseudonyms substituted for participant names. The extracts selected here focused on the children's responses. Following transcription, the extracts were collected into a large data pool. Summative content analysis was conducted. In summative content analysis, two researchers of the research team first read the collection of transcripts. Each researcher used inductive analysis to identify and code the children's responses of their suggested methods to make friends when there were language differences. These were then considered for similarities and differences, and three general categories or themes emerged. In total, there were 101 responses to the question, how would you make friends if you don't share the same language? Three broad themes emerged: interactive and nonverbal strategies, linguistic strategies, and inclusive attitudes. Theme 1, interactive and nonverbal strategies, were named as key ways for children to make friends in settings characterised by linguistic diversity. Children achieved interactive and nonverbal strategies by using toys and resources and games. Objects provided children with a way to initiate interaction and find common interests. Lego, Play-Doh and blocks were named as good toys to use to make friends. Matt suggested playing with a ball in a game of soccer as a way that he would make friends if he didn't share the same language, as seen in his drawing here. A second sub-theme, games such as hide and seek, snakes and ladders, or chasing, were identified as popular ways to make friends when there were linguistic differences, as Corey's drawing here shows of playing chasing games. Still in this category of interactive nonverbal strategies were another sub-theme of multimodal strategies, and this included hugging, waving, laughing, or talking with your hands, as suggested by May here. And she's drawn a picture with some friends holding out their hands and feet, as she said she would use her hands and feet to explain what she's trying to say. Michael suggested making funny faces, as shown in the next image. The final sub-theme of this larger theme, interactive and nonverbal strategies, was friendly gestures or gestures of friendship. And this involves sharing intimate moments such as visiting others' houses or giving presents, as Sarah's drawing here shows when she went to Laura's place. In theme 2, linguistic strategies, this theme identified strategies such as finding a common language or learning each other's language as important for making friends when there was language diversity. Sub-theme 1 involved teaching or using the dominant language of the setting, and Shay's drawing here shows her teaching the dominant language of the setting, even though she speaks 4 languages herself. Howe emphasised the importance of finding a common language and explained that as his first language was Japanese, he practiced English at home with his dad, as he felt it was important to speak English in the setting, as English was the dominant language. Sub-theme 2 of this theme, linguistic strategies, involved sharing and exchanging languages. Children named strategies such as being taught words in other languages by teachers and explaining that learning different languages helped her to make friends. Singing a song in another's language was one way that Jenny identified as a way that she did make friends in that setting. But when we first spoke with Jenny, she was unsure if making friends without sharing a language was possible, suggesting that maybe she might not be able to do it. This conversation with Jenny emphasised to us the importance of having an open conversation about language and friendship and inclusive practices. Writing notes was another way children identified to communicate. The third theme involved inclusive attitudes. Children expressed an inclusive attitude that underpinned efforts to make friends. Anna emphasised the importance of being nice over the need to speak the same language. Her account highlighted the long-lasting and mutual aspects of friendships. As her drawing here shows, she said, if we find one and be nice, we can be friends forever and ever. Lizzie drew a picture of many friends swimming together and reported, I would try and make friends with everybody. The children's accounts overall highlighted a willingness to overcome potential cultural and linguistic barriers for making friends and create feelings of belonging. The children indicated the importance they placed on taking the perspective of others by sharing languages and using nonverbal strategies to make connections. The children's responses asks us as educators to pause and reflect. How do we approach language differences in conversations with children? How can we support children to establish and maintain friendships? Educators can support children to make friends when they might not be a similar language by more purposely using the first languages of all children in the classroom in everyday tasks and instructions, including objects, games and joint projects to support playful exchanges and talking with children about their own strategies to make friends. Even if children have good strategies of what to say, accessing play and being included requires reading social cues and understanding the complex peer culture at play, even when children have good strategies. There is still much to learn about friendships with children. We need to know more about friendships online and how children's friendships are maintained over time. Our planned research using interactional analysis will focus on the influence that the size of the group, the amount of time or resources available, and the interests and social agendas of the members themselves has on the strategies children need to be included. Thank you for listening to this presentation. And here are some references that you might find of interest as you investigate this topic further.